Hey there everybody, welcome to the second part of Data Analysis 1, Introduction to Data Frames. This video picks up right where the previous one left off. So where did the previous video leave off? We left off with this tiny little data set, which we created as a spreadsheet or data frame inside of pandas, and I was showing you some commands you can do with it. So we did these first 5 commands. Let's now move on to the next 6 commands, do some basic slicing, and see these other 5 commands here. Okay, so I guess I should say, what does slicing mean? Slicing just means, so you have a data set like this. Slicing means picking off like subsets of the data that you're interested in right now. So maybe you're interested in only names of David or only ages of 19 or whatever. How do you sort of go into this data frame and slice that data out of there, that data you care about? So let me go to Jupyter Lab. I have here the first 2 lines from the code from last time, getting pandas in there and then building the data itself. So on some level, we already know how to do some slicing because of the commands last time. So we had commands last time that were like this. DataFrame2 equals my original data frame. I can pluck off just the name. So now in the next cell, if I ask it to show me what df2 is, it is the original data frame, but only the name data, because I sliced off just the name data. I could do the same thing with age. Okay, so now I'm slicing off just the age data, and now if I run this again, now it's just the age data. So we can already do some sort of slicing, but I want to show you a bit more that you can do now. In particular, that question I said a second ago of, well, how could you slice just the David information out of here? The way you do that is you go inside df right here. So you have df, open bracket, close bracket. Whenever you do that, that means you're going inside df to pick off stuff that you want. And how do you pick off just a name of David? You do it like this. You say, well, df name, I insist that that be just David. Okay, so again, it's kind of confusing to look at this. There are 2 dfs here. This first df with this open brace and then close brace there, that's just telling Python you're going to go inside that data frame df. And again, that data frame df is from right here. So this df is just a data frame of this table from the slide. Anyway, so df, open brace, close brace, go inside data frame df. And then once you're inside there, what do you want? I want all names, data frame names, that equal David. So now if I run that and then ask it to show it to me, look what it shows me. The 3 entries of the original table where name was David. So you can slice off individual names like that. You can slice off individual ages if you want to. So what if you want only ages 19 or something? I don't know. Okay, so there was only one 19-year-old in that data set, and it was a David who was named who had age 19. What if you want ages that are like 19 or less? You can pick those off like that, less than or equal to 19. And there are the 4 people from the original data set whose ages were 19 or smaller. What if you wanted all people whose ages were 19 and also whose names were David? How would you do that? Well, the most natural thing to do is to type something like this. df, their age is less than or equal to 19 and their name equals David. Oops, string David here, right, in quotes. So something like this you should be able to do. You should be able to tell pandas, I want all things where the name was David and also the age was 19 or less. And you can do this, but let me just run this and show you what happens. It gets angry. There are actually a couple of things it's angry about. In pandas, when you have multiple conditions like this, condition 1 and condition 2, you have to put parentheses around the conditions. Like that. That's the first thing you'll have to do. So it's kind of obnoxious, and I'm not sure why, but you do have to do that. Parentheses around conditions. If I try this now, it is still angry. And what it's angry about is actually kind of obnoxious to us. In pandas, and this is in contrast to just regular Python and Spider like we've been using, pandas does not understand the English word and. That is obnoxious. I don't know why the creators of pandas did not teach it what the word and means, but pandas can't handle that. You have to use an ampersand, like that. and now it is happier with us. So if I run this, here are all of the entries of the original data frame. The name was David. Also, the age was 19 or less. By the way, if you don't want the word and there, but you want the word or there instead, so either my age is less than or equal to 19, or my name is David. Again, the or Python or pandas doesn't like. Instead of an or, you have to type a vertical bar like this. Now if I run that, it's happy with that. So here's that data frame. These are all people whose names were David or whose ages were 19 or less. So notice this Taylor person here, right? This Taylor is not named David, but their age was 19 or less. So with an or, it's easier to satisfy an or. Either this, or perhaps both, right? Anyway, so you can slice off things that way if you want to. You can just go inside df and give it conditions, like I want the age to be this, the name to be this, whatever. You can do as many conditions as you want here. Okay, so that's the idea of data slicing, going inside a data frame and plucking off things that you want. The next thing on my list here is group by. Okay, this is very nice. Okay, so this data frame has multiple people's names and ages associated with each of them. Suppose you wanted to know for each name, what is the average age? What is the average age of the Davids? What is the average age of the Taylors, of the Lauries, and so on? How would you do that? Well, the answer is you somehow have to tell pandas that, look, I want you to group the data by name. I want you to like create a set of Davids and consider that its own thing, and the set of Taylors and set of Kims and whatever, right? So sort of like partition the data frame by name, group all the like names together, and then within those little subgroups, take an average, right? So if you wanted to know the average age by name, that's what you would have to tell it. Group everything by name and then take an average. So how do you do that? It takes a bit more typing, so I'm going to extend this so you can see all of it. The basic answer is you use group by. It's a little obnoxious to use, or it's a little cumbersome to use. You have to be precise, as always, in exactly what you type. So when you type along with me, you have to type exactly what I type. So the first thing to note is that with the group by command, you actually have to remind pandas that you're talking about a data frame. You have to tell it like, hey bro, what you're building right now is still a data frame. So open parenthesis, close parenthesis. Okay, so now you tell it inside of df. That was my original data frame, right? The original name and age data. Inside of there, I want you to group all of the data, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, by name. Okay, so you're telling it go inside df and group everything by name. So all the Davids are now together, all the Lauries are now together, whatever, right? And then we have this other command here. Don't really worry about this so much. This is just saying that like when you do this, keep the original row numbers. If you don't have this command here, it starts indexing by name, which you probably don't want to have it do. You can just keep the original like row 0, row 4, whatever. It doesn't really hurt anything not to have this. It just makes the data frame perhaps harder to use in the future. Anyway, so you tell it like, hey, group everything by name, and then what do you want? You want an average age. So here you tell it, age is what I care about, and then you do this function dot mean, like that. So what this will do is, again, it will go inside df, group all the data by name, so all the names are now sort of like subsets, all grouped together, and then it will take an average age. So let me run this, and now let me show you what df2 is. Notice, now it just has the names, right? Each name is like its own grouping. And what's here is the average age. So the average David age is like 17.7. The average Alex age is 21. There was only one Alex and he was 21. You know, average Kim age is 20. There was only one Kim, she was 20, and so on. But anyway, if you want to go inside of a data frame and you have some sort of like natural groupings and you want to take averages within those groupings, here's a nice way to do it. Besides taking an average, there are other things you could do. Suppose you just wanted to know how many Davids are there in this data set, how many Alexes, how many Kims, and so on. You could do a dot count right there. That will just count the number of people in each group when you've grouped by name. So if I rerun this, now it builds this data frame for me. It just tells me that there's one Alex, 3 Davids, 1 Kim, and so on. So that's sort of nice. You can just count how many things there are within a given group. You could also add things up if you want to. So you can go within a given group and just add up the ages. In this case, adding ages together is probably not terribly useful. So notice this data frame I built here. It grouped David's together and added all the ages up, giving a number of 53. That's what those 3 ages were added. So in this particular context, just this raw sum is not particularly useful, but we'll see uses of it later. So anyway, the group by command has this sort of power. It can sort of group things by whatever variable you want. Here I grouped by name. I could have grouped by age. You can group by whatever. And then you can like take means or counts or whatever inside those little groupings. So that's the group by command. And now we've also covered things like .count, .mean, and .sum, right? We did all 3 of those. So the last thing I want to show you is this command called sort values. If you have a data frame, how do you tell it to sort things in a way you might want? So for example, let me just clear this out. It's now gone. I'll clear this out, just whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my original data frame. This was my original data frame, right? The original table. How would you tell Python or pandas that you want the same table, but you'd like the ages sorted? You know, you want like the David 16 to come first because 16 is smallest, and then followed by like the 18-year-olds and the 19-year-olds and so on. How do you sort this data by a given variable? Let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to create a second data frame again. That's just going to be the original data frame sorted, and you do df.sort values, and then you have to tell it what you want it to sort by. So I'm going to sort it by age. So generally speaking, if you want to sort, you're probably talking about sorting by a numeric variable, right? I suppose you could sort by the names, and it will just alphabetically list them. But anyway, so here's df2 will be the original data frame with ages listed in order. So let's just ask it to display df2. And notice df2, right, just has the ages listed in ascending order from smallest to biggest. So it just reshuffled the table for you, right? If you want not from smallest to biggest, but from biggest to smallest, you do this other command here, ascending equals false. So you tell it, I don't want it to ascend. I'd rather it descend. And then the table looks like that. This sort of thing is super nice if you want to get like the top 5 blah, right? The top 5 blah, you would sort by whatever variable you care about, and then you could ask Python or pandas to show you the top 5 things by using that .head command. So here are the top 5 ages. Although it's worth noting here there's a tie for 18, right? So it's not literally the top 5, right? It's not like this 18 is guaranteed to be bigger than what comes next. But anyway, these are like the top 5 ages in the data set, and you can just see that. Okay, so at the end of this video, at the end of the slide presentation, right, I claim you can understand all 11 of these things with a small sort of toy example. So the first homework exercise is to do these things with a small toy example. In the next video, I'll move on to doing these same commands, but with a real data set, not this toy tiny little example, you know. So we'll actually load a spreadsheet into pandas and then do these sorts of things with a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet comes from real data. So that's where we're going next.